I'll never forget this. That old boy preached on hell for about 45 minutes. Oh my, he cried and preached on hell like he believed folks really went there. Amen. And listen, when he gave that invitation, he started preaching about the cross on the road to hell, and told me I didn't have to go there, that Jesus shed his blood that'll keep sinners out of hell. And that stuck in my mind. That stuck in my mind.
Another verse of an invitation song. The message, it was loud and long. A million thoughts raced through his head, but he just can't shake what the preacher said. He remembers the time before, got up and ran out the door. He wonders now what he should do. His sweaty hands grip the back of the pew. His heart is pounding deep inside, and he wishes he could run and hide, but he hears a voice say, "Come and pray," and this time nothing will stand in his way. Nothing makes heaven's angels rejoice like a sinner who's just made Jesus his choice, and nothing compares to the way that it feels to know a risen Savior and the love he reveals. To know a risen Savior, the love he reveals.
Listen, friend, I heard about that. The third verse, just as I am, I slid under that altar.
On his knees with tears streaming down his face, he's just been saved by amazing grace. He stands and says as he looks around, I once was lost, but now I'm found. He sees everything from a different view, and deep inside he feels brand new. As brothers and sisters shake his hand, angels celebrating glory land. His brand new life had just begun, and he'd grow stronger in days to come. But he never dreamed there would come a day when he'd preach God's word to a crowd and say, nothing makes heaven's angels rejoice like a sinner who's just made Jesus his choice, and nothing compares to the way that it feels to know a risen Savior and the love he reveals. To know a risen Savior and the love he reveals. Another verse of an invitation song. The message, it was loud and long. A million thoughts raced through his head, but he just can't shake what the preacher said.
And there at that altar, this is what I said. I said, God, I know I'm a sinner. I know I'm going to hell, just like that preacher said. But Lord, I don't want to go. I said, God, he said, that preacher said, that the drunk blood would save me. I said, God, if I go to hell, I'll go trusting in the blood of Jesus Christ. I want to tell you, there's about 2 acres of heaven that came down in my soul.
All right, welcome to Resident Preacher. We are here going through the Old Testament. Our main purpose here is to talk about Jesus. We want to go through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but in starting in Matthew, it goes through the genealogy or the generations of Jesus. And as I was reading through there, it started listing names down through there. And if I was reading it and I've never read it before, I'd be saying, who's this person? Who's this person? Who's this person? So I thought it really important for us to go back and start reading the chapter 1 of Genesis, the very first book of the Bible. And so we can learn a little bit about these people that it's talking about the people who are in the genealogy or the generation of Jesus. And I'm not here to get a deep meaning from the Old Testament. I'm here just to find out a little bit more about these people. So when we talk about them in the Gospels, we'll kind of have some kind of bearing on who we're talking about. If you're just started following me or you just started stopping by here, we are in chapter 30 of Genesis, but the other chapters are posted. So if you want to go back and look at those, you can. They're on the Twitch channel, and then they're also on YouTube. So for some reason, when they take down the Twitch ones, you could go over to YouTube and you could check it out over there if you want to get caught up and binge it all the way through. This is for people who don't know anything about the Bible or don't know anything about Jesus. This is people who know a little bit but not really sure. This is for people who have had Jesus jammed down their throat their whole life, and so much so they just want to puke it out and got a bad taste for it. This is for people who know Jesus but aren't saved. This is for people who have that saved or relationship with Jesus Christ but just want to learn a little more, or just want a community or a group of people to chat about it and talk about it. So we're going to dive right into chapter 30 of Genesis. Some of the people that are in the genealogy of Jesus are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's where it starts in the genealogy, and that's where we are right now. We've learned about Abraham, we've learned about Isaac, and we are in the middle of Jacob right now. So chapter 30 reads, "And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. So he married Leah first, Rachel's oldest sister, and Leah was giving her all of these boys, but Jacob loved Rachel more, but Rachel could not, as we see here, was left barren, and was left barren. We see that in verse 35 of chapter 29. So now when we pick it up in 30 here, she's given Jacob the what for, because Jacob can't give her any boys. So verse 2, "And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead? Who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her." Okay. Where'd she learn that from? Right? So if you've been with us, we saw that Abraham's wife Sarah did that also. Didn't turn out too well in that situation. Verse 4, "And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife, and Jacob went in unto her. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left barren, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop cometh, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? Because again, we know that Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. She said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And here again, I might butcher some of these names, but they're not easy. But I do have a Bible. It's an older Bible that has like the line over the A, so you pronounce it A instead of so that does help a lot. But don't judge me on how I read all these names. All right, verse 21. And afterward she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, The Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob had said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go into mine own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, of whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. Okay, so what we have here is Jacob went to his family, and that's where he got his wives, and he stayed there, and he worked for Laban, his father-in-law, Leah and Rachel's father. So he has been there a long time, and God blessed Laban with cattle and goods and everything because of Jacob's sake. We read that, I believe, the last time, 2 days ago. Okay, and we will read 28 again here. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord had blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for mine own house also? And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. And I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come. When it shall come for my hire before thy face, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. So he's basically saying, I don't want no money or anything. I just want, I want some of the cattle and the sheep that I've worked so hard for, and that you've been blessed by because of me. And if I take any of those that aren't mine, then count them as stolen. And then Laban agreed. So verse 35, and he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-staked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it. and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and pilled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters in the watering troughs when the flocks came to drink, and they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks towards the ring-strakes, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not into Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so the feeble were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses. Every time I've read this, I've always wanted to try that now and see if that worked. So we're going to start chapter 31. If you're just tuning in, or just stopping by, or just seeing what we're all about, this is Resident Preacher. We're going to be going through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's about learning more about Jesus, who he was, who he is, what he's going to do. This is for everybody, whether you don't know anything about him, or you walk with him daily and have that relationship, and everything in between. The reason why we're reading the Old Testament first is to learn about some of the people that we're going to be reading about in the generations of Jesus. So that's what we're doing here. So we're going to keep reading here in chapter 31. I'm going to try to do this daily, do a daily read, so that way we can push through it. And one of the great things about it is, if you've never read the Bible, you have the opportunity to read the Bible with somebody, give you motivation to know that, okay, every day he's going to be on here and going to go through it. If you're just joining us and you're saying, oh, wow, man, I missed chapter 1 through 30, you can go back and watch those other episodes or VODs on our YouTube channel. The link is on our Twitch page. And so just thanks for stopping by. Now we're going to start back on 31. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and beheld, it was not towards him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, return unto the land of thy fathers, and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field, into his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not towards me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father. And your father hath deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ring-straked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring-straked. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father, and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes, and saw in a dream, and behold, the ram which leaped upon the cattle were ring-straked, speckled, and gristled. And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes, and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straked, speckled, and gristled, for I have seen all that Laban doth unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion of inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he hath sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's, now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. Then Jacob, basically saying there's nothing for us here now, so let's go with you. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting which he had gotten in Padan-aram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban and the Syrian, in that he told him not that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled, and he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in the Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said unto him, Take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives taken with the sword? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me, that I might have sent thee away with mirth, and with songs, with tabret, and with harp, and hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, Take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. With whosoever thou findeth thy gods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tent, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and put them in the camel's furniture, and set upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but found not the images. She was saying that it was her time of the month, and that she couldn't get up. Verse 36, And Jacob was wroth, and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, what hast thou found of all my household stuff? Set it here before my brethren, and they may judge betwixt us both. This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of thy flock have I not eaten. That which was torn of beast I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it. Of my hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for the 2 daughters, and 6 years for the cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, that been with me, surely thou hadst sent me away now empty. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children which they have borne? Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jigar Sehardutha, but Jacob called it Gilead. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Gilead. And Mizpah, for he said, The Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast betwixt me and thee. So between. This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread, and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned unto his place. All right, chapter 32. I think we're going to stop there for the night. Appreciate you stopping by and listening. If you did, we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be on the road over the weekend, but I'm going to try to get on here with my phone, without all this production, and go through some of these. But I appreciate you stopping by.
Good news, everyone.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. I hope this was a blessing to you, and we're going to keep on keeping on. So over the weekend, I'm going to try to use my phone and keep reading through this. And again, pretty soon we'll have question and answers, and a button that you can hit for that. And we can get to know more about Jesus in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Not sure how to pronounce that, but we'll just call you Shooter. Thanks, Shooter, for stopping by. I appreciate it. And everybody else, I hope it was a blessing. Have a good night.
On the Isle of Patmos, John began to say, the Spirit, it came on me. It was on the Lord's day, when I heard a voice behind me as a mighty rushing wind. Oh, the voice of God as a trumpet, and these are the words he said. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am first, I'm last, and I'm the answer for your sin. I am he who died and was buried. I am the one who rose again. John, tell it to the churches. I am. Oh, the backside of the desert, oh, Moses began to pray. When Pharaoh comes asking, Lord, what should I say? To the land of milk and honey, God's children will go away. The am that I am has sent me, so let my people go today. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am first, I'm last, and I'm the answer for your sin. I am he who died Savior, and I am your closest friend.